Alright, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? It's your girl, Messy Jessie.
And your neighborhood's dope boy, favorite girl, Unique, the Freak. Messy Freaks podcast, y'all.
Yeah, man, we back, doing our thing as usual. You know what I'm saying? But today we got a real special guest, you know what I mean? Someone that we all know, someone that we all love. You know what I mean? He's been holding it down. You know what I mean? He locked down right now. But, you know, he always holding his head, keeping it real. I know my girl excited. I know she is. How you feeling today, girl? What's up, sis?
Yeah, you know, I'm always excited when my baby come around, you know what I mean? So, you know, definitely feeling good today. It's definitely a special day. Bittersweet, you know what I mean? Because he couldn't be here physically. But he's definitely, you know, here because, you know, he calling in. So, you know, without further ado, let's take it to the lines and let's, you know what I mean, see what's good.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take it to the line. Yo, what's good? State your name, gangster.
Yeah, what's good? Yeah, it's your man, Tony Nelson. You know what I mean? Better known as Duffle Bag Tony. You know what I mean? Reporting live from SCI. You know what I mean? You know, locked down in the feds right now, holding my head, maintaining, but, you know, other than that, you know, feeling good today. What's going on, Ma?
Oh, there go my baby. What's good, baby? How you feeling today, boo-boo?
Oh, you know, trying to, you know, just maintain and, you know, do what I do, you know what I mean? Keep my head on the swivel, stay focused, you know what I mean? Definitely staying sucker-free, but, you know, hearing your voice always makes me feel good. How you doing today, boo? What's going on?
I know, feeling good, baby. You know what I mean? Missing you like crazy. You know I love you. You know what I mean? Just holding it down, getting to that bag, you know what I mean? And just praying every day that you come home, you know?
Yeah, for sure, baby, you know what I mean? Definitely feeling the same way. You know what I mean? Praying every day that I can get home to you know what I mean?
Alright now, hold on. I ain't no hater or nothing, but come on now. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here too now. You know, I'm part of the interview too. Like, what are we doing? Like, what up?
Oh, my bad. Yo, what up, Jesse? What's poppin' with you? What's going on with you, sis?
Nah, it's all good. What's up, big homie? What's poppin', big dog? You know what I mean?
No doubt, you know, congratulations on everything, man. You know, y'all doing your thing, you know what I mean? On a new podcast, you know what I mean? Everybody's loving the show. You know what I mean? Everybody up in here is definitely loving our show and, you know, feeling y'all, you know what I mean? Y'all definitely putting on for the city, you know what I mean? Making me feel like I'm back at home, you know what I mean? In New York, you know what I mean? So, congratulations to both of y'all, man. Y'all definitely doing your thing, and I'm just glad y'all was able to squash whatever little beef y'all had, and, you know, and now y'all just doing it big, getting to them numbers, man, getting to that money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you already know, babe. You know what I mean? Me and Jesse, you know, we go way back. We started together. So even when we had our little differences, I knew we was gonna, you know, make things right. So it's only right that, you know, we do it, you know, we doing this together, you know what I mean? This was our dream, you know, to get into this business together and get this money, and that's what we doing.
Yeah, for sure. Y'all definitely doing it big, man. You know, y'all coming together is like, you know, Angie Martinez and Miss Jones, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Oh, Angela Yee and motherfucking, what's baby girl name? Just Hilarious or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, but y'all like the younger version, the newer version, you know what I mean? But definitely salute to both of y'all, man, you know what I mean?
No doubt. But the reason we have you calling in today, big bro, is that, you know, we've been, you know, definitely following your journey, you know what I mean? Definitely following your story. And, you know, a few people got a few questions out there, a few rumors out there, and we just wanted to, you know, get into what's true and what's not, you know what I mean? Because, you know, with a person like you know, it's always going to be a lot of truths, and there's always going to be a lot of misunderstandings and halfway truths, and, you know, we wanted you to clear certain things up on what's true and what's not, you know what I mean? And we want to get into, some of the, stories, that, people might have heard, or certain things that might be twisted out there, and, you know what I mean? So that's why we having you call in today,
Well, you already know, man, I'm an open book, you know what I mean? I'm a real nigga, you know what I mean? Stand-up nigga, you know what I mean? Always keeping it 100, so, you know what I mean? Let's do it.
Alright, babe. So, of course, the first, thing we want to get into, we know that you told a story on how you met Diddy and how you met Cassie and, things of that nature. For those who might not know, can you get into how you met Diddy and Cassie and how you feel about the beef between Diddy and 50 Cent right now?
Alright, well, a few years ago, back, couple years, maybe about 8, 9 years, you know what I mean? I got into adult films, you know what I mean? I wasn't always in the street, you know what I mean? I started out, you know what I mean, in the streets, like, doing little petty things, but what happened was, for those who didn't hear the story, you know what I mean, I was fighting the case, you know what I mean? I had a gun charge and a tent robbery charge, you know what I mean? I was maybe 19, 20 at the time, you know what I mean? Young nigga. So I had a case and then, I was fighting this case for about a year and a half and I didn't, want to, go back into the streets while I was fighting this open case, you know what I mean? So one day, got with this young lady, this female. We did our thing, you know what I mean? Had sex with her, whatever. And while I was getting dressed, she was just laying in the bed staring at me, and I've always been a nigga that, like to work out, keep my body right. And she was just telling me how my body was banging and how, I need to be a dancer or something. And I'm like, I don't know how to dance, plus I don't want to be no dancer. I don't want to wear no G-string or nothing, but, and I remember leaving Shorty crib and, walking home and thinking to myself like, damn, maybe there's a way I can get some money, you know what I mean? From how I look or whatever, but I ain't know what. And it wasn't until I got home and I sat down, you know what I mean, in my room. And you know how back in the day, we had a TV and, the TV sitting on a TV stand and underneath, you might have like a DVD player and some DVDs. I remember I had a bunch of porn DVDs underneath my TV stand. You know what I mean? Because I used to get a lot of them porno shits for free because my man was a bootlegger. He would sell DVDs and CDs and he used to always just give me a bunch of movies and shit for free, and I would always grab all the pornos and shit. So that's when it dawned on me, maybe I could do porn or something, you know what I mean? So I looked on the back because, one of the DVDs got in contact with somebody. And, next thing I started doing films and, this chick that also did films, pornos, Diamond Ortega, me and her became cool and started doing our thing on and off camera. And one day she hit me up, said, she had a party, she had to go to in the Hamptons. She took me there with her because she said, she wanted me to go with her. And, wound up going, it was Diddy's house, in the Hamptons, back when, he lived in Long Island in the Hamptons. And next thing you know, me and, Diamond Ortega get it in. We get it popping in front of Diddy, Cassie, Lord of London was there. A few other celebrities I don't want to mention, but once me and, Diamond got it popping at the party, he sent his assistant over, they paid Diamond, they paid me. Next thing you know, Cassie reached out to me and then, started, dealing with Cassie, and Diddy would just sit to the side, watching videotape, and that was pretty much it, I mean? I was pretty used to, somebody being in the room, being that I was doing porn at the time, and, Diddy, back then wasn't, doing the things that they claiming he did now, he wasn't doing nothing gay, nothing funny, he was just, kind of like a porn director, just sitting to the side watching. Sometime he might have a camera recording, sometime he might not, you know what I mean? But I never got no weird gay vibes from, Diddy. Diddy always been a good nigga, you know what I mean?
Alright, so how you feel about the beef between him and 50? Like, we know that you cool with 50, you know, you and 50, you know, y'all from like the same neighborhood and shit. I mean, you know, we seen the picture, you know, with your pops and 50 back in the day. So, you know, how you feel about the beef between 50 and Diddy?
I mean, it is what it is, you know what I mean? Ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? You know, that's a beef that goes way back, you know what I mean? I'd rather not get into it, you know what I mean? I'd rather stay on 50's good side. You know, I'd rather stay on 50's good side, cause, you know, not only me and 50 from the same neighborhood and we cool, but, you know, this ain't got nothing to do with me, man. And, you know, it's Southside till we die, you know what I mean? So I gotta go with the home team, you know what I mean? You know, but Diddy's my man too, man. Diddy's cool. Diddy's a good nigga too, man. But, you know, I'd rather not say, cause I don't want to be like Big Meech out here, you know what I mean? You know, I'm trying to come home to that bag and, you know, keep that bag, you know?
Come on, babe. Let me find out 50 got you shook out here. 50 got you shook. Like, what's going on, babe? Come on now.
Nah, ain't nobody got me shook, but, you know, that's just the home team, man. And, you know, but nah, at the end of the day, man, I just stay out of it, man. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Like, whatever the reason is that they're going back and forth for, whatever the reason is, 50 did a documentary or whatever, you know, I saw the documentary, you know what I mean? You know, I saw it, you know, to me, you know, all jokes aside, you know what I mean? The documentary was dope, you know what I mean? It just made me feel good to see New York again, hot New York, back when New York looked and sounded like New York, you know what I mean? But other than that, man, I just, it just fucked up how, you know, Diddy's locked up now, you know, the abuse that we seen on camera, you know what I mean? That's all I could talk about is the abuse I seen on camera, you know, when Diddy and, you know, Cassie got into it on camera. That was sad, but other than that, I can't really speak on nothing, because like I said, when I was around Diddy and Cassie, I ain't seen none of that, you know what I mean? It was always all love, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? I think that all that might have came later on, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? But, you know, shout out to Diddy, man. Free Diddy, man. You know, shout out to Cassie. You know what I mean? I definitely had some good times with Cassie. I can't complain because, you know, not only a nigga got to bust a nut and get paid for it, but, you know what I mean? I had fun, man. You know what I mean? It gave me something, you know, to, you know, not only talk about later, but, you know, some good-ass memories, you know what I mean? Because, you know, Cassie, you know, she a beautiful woman, you know what I mean? I usually go for thicker girls, but, you know, Cassie was pretty, so it made up for that. But, you know, far as that, you know, shout out to 50, man. You know what I mean? That's the home team, so, you know, definitely gonna be rocking with my man 50 when I come home. You know, we definitely gonna turn my story into a real TV series, so I can't go against the home team, man. Southside all day, you dig?
Alright, cool. So let's get into another rumor now. When they first was like, you know, saying that you was gonna be telling stories, you know what I mean, from the feds or whatever, you know what I mean? What's the dude name, the vlogging name? I think his name was Malik Jamal. I think that's his name, if I'm not mistaken, you know what I mean? But he said that you and the WWE wrestler Bianca Belair dated, you know what I mean? And allegedly got pregnant. Is there any truth to that?
Nah, ain't no truth to that. Ain't no truth to that. But what happened was I did meet Bianca Belair. Now I can't get too much into the story because, you know, I got into the story, but it ain't out yet. But I did meet Bianca Belair, and you know, I met her, but I just say nah. No, I never dated Bianca Belair. I never got Bianca Belair pregnant. You know what I mean? 'Cause when I met her at the time, she was, and is still married to Montez Ford. But I did meet Bianca Belair. But I don't want to get too into the story because, you know, like I said, you know, we ain't put it out yet. But, you know, the story will be coming out soon. You know what I mean? The Duffle Bag Tony story, season 6. You know what I mean? Coming, you know, in February. So, you know, I just leave it at that. But nah, I never got Bianca Belair pregnant, but I did meet her. But, you know, we'll get into got mixed up, you know what I mean?
Well, I bet. So what about, about Cardi B and how did you, get into it with Cardi B, how did you meet Cardi B and all that?
Now, as far as Cardi B, that's an interesting story that, I met a girl on Facebook, who happened to be Star Brim. Now, Star Brim is, is Cardi B's best friend. She, also, was a blood, at the time, real pretty girl, pretty face, fat ass and shit. I just met on Facebook. I started, kicking it, hanging out, of course, having sex, casual sex. And one day, she was just telling me how her homegirl was having problems with her man. And she, wanted me to, fuck her homegirl, because she was saying her homegirl needs some good dick. And she was like, being that I got some good dick, she wanted me to fuck her homegirl. And well, one day I went over there to go see, the star or whatever. And then I watched Cardi B in lingerie. Like, I couldn't believe it at the time, I was like, damn. And then that's how me and Cardi, got it in. But I only got it in with Cardi that one night, we only had sex that one night, because after that, that's when Star called her case. And then, of course, I didn't have, Cardi's contact. I only got with her because of Star. And then, I think Cardi stayed with Offset maybe for another year and a half after that. But, nah, that was it. I just got with Cardi that one time, but it was good, man. My life's like a movie, man. What can I say, I've been a blessed nigga up until, getting up in here locked up. But other than that, my life's been blessed, man. My life is shit. I ain't gonna hold you.
No doubt. I definitely fucks with you, big homie. You know what I mean? But yo, it was recently reported that, some young lady that you was dealing with, so some white chick, some chiropractor that be on YouTube named Dr. Shelly Ziegenberg. It was some controversy about she had a problem about you telling the story or something like that. Like, what happened with you and Dr. Shelly, the chick Dr. Shelly?
Oh yeah, Dr. Shelly, bro. Dr. Shelly, she's a chiropractor, that be on YouTube, very popular. I met her, how I met Dr. Shelly was, back when I was still doing porn and, slinging dick to all the ladies and shit. Me and Rome Major, shout out to Rome Major, who's an adult, film star that, that I was cool with. Me and Rome Major went down to Jamaica, to this joint called Hedonism, in Jamaica, to where, all the male strippers and male porn stars would go down there and have sex with, like the white women and the wives and girlfriends, just go down there and have fun, kind of like a swingers event. And, that's where I met Dr. Shelly, she was a white chick, had a nice cute little shape on her, and, me and Dr. Shelly's, was getting it in for a few years, having sex, shit like that. And, up until I got locked up, me and Dr. Shelly was messing around. She would finance all my cars, she, my condo in Dallas was in her name, like me and Dr. Shelly was real cool. But, once I got locked up and she moved on with her life, of course she, got married, she got married to a white dude. And I guess the white dude felt some kind of way, her husband, the white dude felt some kind of way. So she was asking me, if there's a way, I could take, the video down, me telling the story. And I told Shelly, I was like, yo, straight up, I can't, hide my truth. This is my truth, this is my life, I didn't slander you, it ain't like I'm lying on you, so what's the deal? But she was like, it's her husband, and, I guess he felt some kind of way, knowing that his wife was with a black man and shit, how that is, but it is what it is. So the only thing I could do was tell Dr. Shelly that, well, I could take the last name off and just leave Dr. Shelley on it. Because, you know, it is my truth, and you know what I mean, I gotta stick to the truth, and it is what it is, and you know, but you know, Dr. Shelley, you know, Ziegenberg, you know what I mean, from YouTube, you know, yeah, that's, you know, is somebody I dealt with. But, you know, what's funny is, you know, her doing the chiropractic thing, that's her thing, but I brought, you know, the sexiness to it. Like before, she was doing it in her office, in a white coat, you know what I mean? I told her, nah, you know, put on some spandex, look sexy, get your, you know, friends, you know what I mean? To wear spandex, make it sexy. And doing, boom, it took off. You know what I mean? I brought that to the table, you know what I mean? But, you know, shout out to Dr. Shelley, you know what I mean? You know, I ain't got no hard feelings, you know? But that's, you know, her husband, you know, he feels some kind of way, you know what I mean? But hey, you know what I mean? You know, my truth is my truth, you know what I mean? I wish them nothing but the best, you know what I mean? Live happily ever after. You know, I moved on, you know what I mean? I'm with Unique right now, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I love you, Unique, you know what I mean? I'm with my baby, so, you know, my past is my past.
Doubt, babe. I love you too. I love you too. And, you know, yeah, it is. We all got a past, you know what I mean? I've got a past, like, you know, I spoke to you and told you about certain rappers and NBA players that I dated, so, you know, we all got a past, you know what I mean? But, you know, what's in the past is left behind, you know, we moving forward, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. So, you know what I mean? So anybody got a problem with me speaking my truth, that's on them, you know what I mean? I just gotta, you know, do what I've been doing, and that's doing me, you know what I mean? So, it's all good, you know?
Alright, so what's the latest? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, what's the latest on the, you know, the Duffle Bag Tony story? Is it going to be another season? You know what I mean? You just completed season 5. You know what I mean? You 50 episodes in, so, you know, what's going on? Like, you got another season coming up, and what's the latest on your, you know, on your case?
Well, you know, the latest on the case is, you know, still fighting it, you know what I mean? Still fighting it, you know what I mean? Hoping to get out of here one day, you know what I mean? But shout out to everybody that's out there fighting for me, you know what I mean? Shout out to you, you know, Messy Jessie, no, shout out to you, sis. Of course, my baby Unique, you know what I mean? Shout out to Nas, shout out to 50, Yayo, you know what I mean? Tony Yayo, my nigga Jay the Kiss, you know what I mean? My nigga Benny the Butcher, my nigga Pusha T from the Clips, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people advocate for me to come home, you know what I mean? And I just, you know, want to thank everybody, you know what I mean? Shout out to Lil Kim, shout out to Nicki Minaj too. They also, you know what I mean, shouted me out. You know what I mean? I get a lot of love, you know what I mean? From a lot of people that's trying to get me out of here, you know what I mean? And I just want to thank everybody, you know what I mean? So, like I said before, my case still fighting, you know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? For us, you know, the Duffle Bag Tony story, there will be a season 6, you know what I mean? We're just taking a little hiatus right now. But yeah, February, you know what I mean? Season 6 will start, you know what I mean? So, look forward to some more, you know, dope stories, man, you know what I mean? And, you know, it is what it is, man. I'm just doing me, man.
Alright, cool. So, I think that pretty much covers everything. So, you know, if you want to give any shout outs, babe, you know what I mean? You know, let us know, you know, give your shout outs, you know what I mean? Anybody you want to shout out there, boo?
Well, of course, you know what I mean? Definitely want to shout out you, Unique. I love you, baby. Definitely gonna see you soon. You know, of course, you know, everybody back home in New York, you know what I mean? Southside, you know what I mean? Basic Project, salute. You know what I mean? My second home, Dallas, you know what I mean? Definitely shout out to my nigga, you know, Platinum, my nigga Flame. You know what I mean? Farrago the Boss. You know what I mean? Just everybody, man. You know what I mean? Rest in peace to all my niggas, you know, that's no longer here. You know what I mean? And to my niggas still here, salute. We still mobbing, man. Still holding it down. But, other than that, you know what I mean? You know, we could address the elephant in the room, you know what I mean? Which is, you know, the situation between me and Unique and, you know, us getting caught, you know what I mean? But I think that pretty much people know what it is. And, you know, we got a healthy, you know, baby on the way. And, you know what I mean? So, lesson that came out of that, out of that situation, and we, for those who know, we beat that case, so, we moving forward,
Exactly, babe. Forward, never backwards, you know what I mean? Rubbing my stomach as we speak, you know what I mean? Little man kicking it, as he hear your voice, but yeah, we definitely moving forward.
Yeah, look at the love. But it's all good though, man. Shout out to the big bro, Duffle Bag Tony, of course. Unique, my sis, you know what I mean? Messy Freaks Podcast. Shout out to my little nephew, he's in the building. Hold on, let me rub the stomach, you know what I mean? Look at the little nephew in there. But yeah, man, you already know what it is. It's your girl, Messy Jessie. You know what I mean? With my sis, Unique the Freak. Messy Freaks Podcast. We gonna pay these bills, these sponsors, and we be back. Salute, y'all.